Whoa, yeah. New York, Chi-Town, Sydney, Spain, London, Tokyo, Paris, LA.
Okay. What's up, world? Hey, how's it going? This is Woody and Angela.
Hello, how are you? Just in
And
case you didn't know, I am Angela.
she's Angela. I'm Woody. What you want to talk about?
We're coming to you to talk to you about some of the questions you guys have been asking
Yeah.
about Woody's health, and to tell you about some of the experiencing, some of the trials and error we've learned, and my perspective as a wife that's concerned about a husband that has a congested heart failure. My concern is for is having a husband that can be a little hard-headed, as well as for taking care of himself. And
No.
sometimes, it can be a little scary too, because he's my everything, unfortunately. And
Unfortunately.
I said it.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, he's everything. My life is surrounded by him. I depend on him for so much, and it's scary that I depend on him so much that I can lose him. So
Huh.
you have. That's what I mean. Like, unfortunately, not unfortunately that he's the love of my life, but I depend on him so much.
I'm not going anywhere.
You better not.
Yeah, so I have got diagnosed 3 years ago. Actually, yeah, it was just 3 years. It seemed like it's longer.
3 years in February, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a week after my birthday. Exactly 1 week after my birthday. So it was 3 years ago. I was just turned 50. And I got diagnosed with CHF, congestive heart failure. Hold on a second. All right, congestive heart failure. So, for those of you who do not know what congestive heart failure, let's talk about the actual definition of congestive heart failure is. Heart failure describes the inability or failure of the heart to adequately meet the needs of organs and tissues for oxygen and nutrients. So basically, in my case, there are symptoms of swelling, shortness of breath. Basically, every time you go somewhere right now, they're going to ask you if you had shortness of breath, this and this, this and this. Be honest, most people are going to have shortness of breath, especially if you have a heart condition. So, going into doctor's offices and they're asking me shortness of breath, I have to jokingly say, due to my congestive heart failure, because at times I would have shortness of breath. But now I'm good. Now I'm good. I didn't have those so-called, what are they called? Symptoms that would just automatically say, oh, the doctor can look at you and tell that you're going through something. I had none of that. The only thing I did have was the shortness of breath, the tiredness. But if you looked at me, looked at my joints, because there's a lot of swelling generally with people with heart conditions or congestive heart failure. So it was kind of hard for them to see.
Yeah, but it was scary too because they kept saying it was asthma and bronchitis. And
Yeah, getting
so
to that
you got to
part.
make sure they don't diagnose you with the wrong thing.
Yeah, so she's right, because for 5 years I was misdiagnosed of asthma, bronchitis, and what else? I don't know.
That was it. They was just making him have.
Oh,
They definitely,
blood pressure. The
they
blood pressure was
definitely
off the
wanted
chart.
him to have asthma and bronchitis. Everything
Yeah,
was
treat me
asthma
for asthma
and
and bronchitis and my blood pressure. Could never get my blood pressure under control for 5 years. And the only reason why I had a blood pressure problem was because I was going through congestive heart failure. So that being said, 5 years into this, it boiled to a head. A week after my birthday, I was up all night, throwing up, throwing up, throwing up. Didn't sleep at all. So About 5 o'clock the following morning, I woke her up and said, "Hey, we need to go to the hospital." So
But actually, he know that I wake up at 5 o'clock for 5 o'clock prayer.
right,
And so when I woke up for 5 o'clock prayer, he was like, "We need to go to the
so
hospital."
we need to go to the hospital. And of course, I get in the car. She gets in the car, and I drove.
I don't just get in the car; he puts me in the car because he's always been wanting to go and open the door for me to let me in, open the door to get me out of the car. And so, in the midst of
Just
that,
another day.
he drove his after putting me in the car. He
We
drove to the hospital.
Yeah, we drove to the hospital. So I go in the hospital and I explain to him I've been throwing up all night, can't breathe, because my breathing right now is felt like somebody was on my chest, so I couldn't breathe. So they rushed me to the back, hooked me up to all this equipment and everything. And then about 15 minutes later, nurse comes in and she says, "Mr. Warren, you're having a heart attack."
No, how did you drive yourself here? You had a heart attack.
Oh, that was the doctor came in. First, the on-call doctor or the ER doctor for the night. It comes in and says, "How did you get here?" I said, "I drove." He looked at me like, "What do you mean you drove?" I said, "I drove. That's it. I drove to the hospital." He's like, "I don't believe this. You're having a heart attack. You drove to the hospital?" I said, "Yeah."
And I felt so bad because I love sleep, and I'm so used to him, pushing through whenever he have a sickness or something. Even taking care of all the kids when they were sick, he's always been that kind of person. And to know that he drove himself to the hospital, and while we're on our way to the hospital, I'm literally in the passenger seat sleep.
She always sleep. If she's not eating, she sleep.
I know if you're not eating.
No, if you're not eating, you
No,
sleep.
I sleep. He eats.
No.
Yes.
Anyway,
You couldn't tell that I'm so thick, but never mind.
I ended up spending about almost a month in the hospital. 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 weeks in
Two
the
and a
hospital.
half to 3 weeks.
But this is when I learned so much about what I was going through the whole time, being misdiagnosed, and my high blood pressure was never under control.
But tell them about that medicine they had you on.
Oh, the medicine that they put most black men on,
Mm-hmm.
lisinopril.
Yeah.
And lisinopril was a joke for me. It works for some, but what I started to find out later on, also with lisinopril and other medications, it's just not just lisinopril, but lisinopril is one of those medications that a lot of people, after using it a long time, start to build up an allergy towards the medication. So my brother-in-law had to go in.
Yeah, my brother had been
He
on
has
it for
he has a bad heart.
and he had been on it for what, about 7 years?
And then
Somewhere
then
like
he started
Swelling.
it started breaking him out in different ways. And then we met a guy in the hospital another time,
No,
in the
that's
emergency
in
room,
the emergency room.
and his lips were like this.
And I looked at him and said,
"You're on lisinopril."
and he was like, yeah,
Yeah.
how'd you know? I was
He's
like,
"Yeah, it happened to my brother."
Mhm.
So just be careful about the medications. So being unchecked, what I mean by unchecked is being on that medication for 5 years and it still was not under control. My blood pressure was crazy. I think the night that I went into the hospital, that morning I went into the hospital, my blood pressure was almost 180 over 160.
196.
Yeah, it was 180 over 165 or something.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Mhm.
So you know that bottom number was 165. It's supposed to be over no more than 80. So yeah,
But when he said unchecked, he was going to the doctor.
all the
He
time.
was going to the doctor regularly, so it's not like he was overlooking his symptoms or not taking care of himself or scared to go
Yeah.
to the doctor. He went to the doctor frequently, as well as he thought he was doing the right thing about his high blood pressure.
Right.
And so
Thinking
that's
that all
what
the
scared
problems
me.
was my high blood pressure, and it wasn't. And no, it was not the blood pressure causing the problem. It was they had to get to the root of what caused the blood pressure that caused the congestive heart failure. So great doctors. I had great doctors. If you see it on YouTube, after I came out of the hospital, you can look up. I got some resources on the page there. follow up about my congestive heart failure. It was terrible that first day in the hospital because
No, the first 2 days, because they was killing you.
right. So this is the thing. So when you first go in the hospital, the first thing they do is hook you up to fluids. So I guess they called the head of cardiology at Holy Cross Hospital, and I had been in there a day, and I was getting worse and worse. I was in so much pain. He comes into the hospital and he says, "Take him off everything. Get him off everything." What was happening was the fluid, because they always hook you up to an IV. I was literally drowning in fluid around my heart. It wasn't showing anywhere on my body. No joints. My ankles were fine. All the fluid was retained right here inside of my chest. And they had never seen that. So this is why it's called practicing medicine. Because they're learning as they go. Yes, they do know a lot, but it's still practicing medicine. So in my case, totally different from everybody that they had ever seen. And that's what they kept saying too.
They said it was something about it was in your gene or something like that?
No, actually what caused my blood pressure, here it goes. So great doctor, another doctor at Holy Cross saw my chart, and she came in and she says, she took my case to the head of the hospital and says, "Hey, I think this guy would be a great case study. So let's get him into this program." So the program was, of course, if you've been looking at any television, was funded by Entresto, the largest heart failure study in the world. So they came in and says, "Mr. Warren, we want to take you in and do some cases because you're not like the normal case for a person with a heart problem." And I said, "Okay, fine." She says, "It won't be any cost to you or anything like that. It's just that we need to do some things." And I said, "Fine, as long as I get better." She says, "No problem." While I was in there, and he came in and told him to take me off all fluids. Come backtracking a little bit. They gave me some shots to get the fluid out of my body, and they had to measure how much fluid it was. So what it came out to be, it was like 4.5 gallons of fluid that they pumped. That actually, no, they didn't pump it out. I urinated out 4.5 gallons of fluid that was sitting inside me. So this is the biggest problem with congestive heart failure. So I had got a question of, did they put me on a fluid restriction? And the question is yes. So one of the sort of life changes you have to do when you have congestive heart failure is monitor your fluid intake, because you never know when or if you're going to store it. Now I'm fine. I don't have that fluid around me. Just last week, no, about 4 days ago, well, yeah, I'll say last week. A week ago, I went into for a checkup, and I had another echocardiogram, and my heart is strong.
Wait, back it up. It is now.
It is now.
It has not been, because he had got to the point where he was swelling, and that's because he tried to get off Entresto.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he thought, well, I think you have to take this thing seriously. Although they tell you that this is going to be medicine that you're going to be on all your life, the truth is, this is medicine that he's going to be on all his life, until the Holy Ghost decides to heal him.
Well,
no, because you was not
at that time.
You was not taking your medicine properly.
Was it at one point?
And
not now.
Yeah, and we can see the symptoms coming back. The coughing in the middle of the night, the shortage of breath, him having absolutely no energy. I mean, none. After he get off work, he's just done. And he's not that kind of person. He had no energy. And come to find out, it's because he was not taking his medicine
It's the way I was
properly.
supposed to, yeah.
Because why? He was trying to stretch it. Because without, tell him about that.
Well,
it's very expensive.
at one point, at one point in our transition, and Entresto is very expensive. So we moved from Florida to Georgia. Insurance companies do different things in different states. In Florida, my insurance covered Entresto. It only cost me $60 a month. Without insurance, just for Entresto. Without insurance, Entresto costs $550 per month. That's one 30-day supply. Moving to Georgia, they didn't cover the Entresto like they did in Florida. So it was $160 a month out of pocket. So yeah, that's where I started. I wasn't taking my medication where I was, but thanks to a great doctor in Atlanta that found me an alternative medication to Entresto that would only cost me $10 a month.
But when we first got on that, we didn't like it. I say
No, I've changed twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they gave him something that it was not helping him. And I'm like, I don't care how much we have to pay for it. Let's make it happen, because I can see, as a wife, I can see him deteriorating. And it's very scary because, like I said earlier, I depend on him for so much. And so to see him become a person that all he wants to do is just, after his 8 hours of working or whatever, even though he worked hard, but he's always worked hard. So to get to the point where he no longer can do anything besides work, it was very scary. And so we had to go through that as a couple.
Yeah, so changing doctors also from Florida to Georgia. I got a great cardiologist in Atlanta. And I had a great cardiologist in Florida, but this guy in Atlanta, I have to give him all props. He never hesitated to give me a call. They have a system where you can email them directly to the doctors or to the office, because especially with this pandemic now, everything's kind of rough. And he would, even in a busy day, it would be like 6, 7 o'clock at the end of his day, he would be calling me saying, hey, what's going on? What can we do? Let's try to do this. But you gotta find someone who cares. My doctor that I had in Florida, when I was going through this for the first 5 years, all they cared about was, here's the blood pressure medication, here's the blood pressure medication, here's some antibiotics, here's some antibiotics. That's it.
And yeah, and after we found out that they diagnosed him wrong, and I called the doctor.
Oh, I had just went to the doctor
a couple days
Friday, and then on Friday, and then on Monday morning I was in the hospital. So tell them what you told them.
I don't even remember. I was just so mad.
She went off.
That he had been going to the doctor, and then you tell him that he has bronchitis, and he constantly telling you that what you're giving him is not working. They're giving him steroids, and as a person who's on the steroids a lot, the more steroids you on, the more it affects your lungs. And so that too stops you from cause you to have problem breathing, because steroids affects your lungs. So
she calls him up, and she lets him have it. She goes off like a missing link to the point where the doctor's office called back and says, well, we don't think it's we don't think you need to come back to our office anymore.
They wouldn't accept me I was a patient as well. So because
we got booted from the doctor's office.
They no longer wanted to be my
longer wanted to be a physician of us.
Yeah.
Because she called him and went off.
Yeah, because he could have died, and he could have died being under care of a doctor.
Yeah.
You went to school for this, and I don't know if it was cause.
And the thing is, I asked them.
Go the extra mile is what I'm saying.
No, but I asked them specifically. I said, I'm having this problem and nothing's working. I said, are you sure it's not my heart? No, there's nothing wrong with your heart.
Even you had to fight for EKG or whatever they gave you, what?
Oh,
What
okay. So
does
in
it-
my case, if I get an EKG,
it won't pick up.
normal. Every test, blood test, normal. The only way they found out, well, because they were heart specialists, and they noticed I was having some arrhythmic problems when I was having a heart attack. But the only way that we could find out what's going on with me personally is with an echocardiogram. And that's what red flagged everything, because they were looking at all my test results. They were looking at all my blood work, everything. And they couldn't believe that I would slip through the problems that I had with the problems that I had. So after doing all that, after starting to get on the right track, I still had to stay in the hospital, and they moved me a couple times actually in the hospital, but they moved me to my own suite.
Yeah, there was. He got
They
so
w-
much favor
they
at
went-
Holy Cross. I'm telling you, it was nothing but God ordained. Because if he had not went to Holy Cross, we sure know he would have not
Yeah, I
been here
would-
today.
yeah.
Even to the point where Holy Cross itself was saying that they talking about heart transplant. Who's 50, never
need
had
a
a
heart
problem,
transplant?
going to hospital, and all of a sudden they talk about a heart transplant.
Right,
And so
because
that's what made me
because
so mad.
yeah, when they first did that first echo in the emergency room, they sent me up to get an echocardiogram. My refraction rate came back at less than 15. Now 20 is a point for transplant. 55 to 70, 55, 65 is normal. I was at 15.
And that's what it was saying too, for you to be so young,
You're
for
like,
your heart to
what?
be in such a bad shape.
Yeah, so that wasn't gonna fly.
So if you have a problem breathing and you coughing all during the night, a dry cough like this whooping cough, you make sure you ask your doctor for what's it called, man? Echo what?
An echocardiogram.
Yeah.
Even if they give you an EKG, if you're having the problems I had, the EKG, I took several EKGs, it didn't work.
We even had EKGs for life insurance, and it didn't
Right.
pick up anything like that.
EKG, oh, you fine. Little do they know. So anyway,
So
being
with-
in Holy Cross,
Yeah.
I was sitting in the room, and in comes a whole room full of University of Miami medical students, cardiology medical school students, and they're like, "Oh, we just want to listen to your heart because we understand that you're a patient that has some
Yeah. Had a
rare.
different
You're very rare." And I had a very specific beat that they had never seen a person in life. They only had recordings of people with heart conditions that may have be kind of strange. So I was a guinea pig. I said, "Yeah, no problem." Everybody took a listen to my heart, and the head cardiologist says, "You hear it? You hear it?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "What's the big deal?" And they were like, "Because we've never had a live patient with rare problems." So they were coming to Fort Lauderdale from the University of Miami cardiology school to listen to me, my heart. So they made recordings of my heart. So now they can study things like that at medical school. Ended up being that Entresto paid for everything.
Yeah. Thank God for Entresto.
3 weeks in the hospital, I didn't have a medical bill because I was part of a study.
Study.
I was part of a study. So after I got out of the hospital, the study continued for 6 months. And this is where the life changes come in. So I had to wear this device called a life vest. And what a life vest does, you'll see it in the other videos You'll see it in the other videos that I had to wear it around everywhere I went. It's a vest that goes over you and it has sensors on you, and it's like a defibrillator. It acts as a defibrillator if your heart stops. So it monitors me. It every night it logs onto the internet and it broadcasts out to a facility that monitors uh, medical treatment. So the doctors can log on and see just how my heart's doing.
Yeah, that was amazing because you couldn't leave him in the house without it. Like every time he got ready to take a bath, somebody had to be there with him.
Yeah,
My
because I take
mom
it
would
off.
come sit with him. Nobody would want him to be at home. But the scary thing, I'm smiling now, but it's scary, is that the night that he came home, because they
Right,
told
from
us
the
that if
hospital.
it goes off,
Right.
that means his heart stopped beating. So the night that he came home, I
Right.
was in the bed and I was asleep, and his thing
That
went
alarm
off.
went off. It is loud. It woke me up out of my sleep because it's designed to do that. So
I wake up screaming,
if your heart, right, if your heart stops, you have so many seconds before it hits you with a charge. Well, my heart didn't stop, so it might have just been a glitch from being first use. You know, the brand new. They came out to the house. They came to the hospital and fitted me first, and so I go home, and that first night it goes off. The alarm goes off, and I mean it's loud. I sit up in the bed, and I only have so many seconds to hit a green button to let them know that I'm okay before it shocks me. that was funny.
That ain't funny now.
I mean,
but it
was
it's funny
scary.
now, but it wasn't funny.
Yeah, it
then.
was scary. It was
Yeah.
scary. It was scary.
And then that's another thing too. I guess as far as this condition, even though it's something that he deals with, it's something that your partner have to deal with as well. And it's very important as far as us as a couple to try to work on this life changing together. And sometimes we both fail. Sometimes I want something, and because I want it, I mean talking about food, he wants it too. And because he likes to
what?
eat food, babe, you love to eat. I mean, and I eat badly. Before he met
I don't
me,
eat bad.
You didn't, babe.
Yeah.
But now, he's
She
a
eats
little
a
crazy.
lot of sweets.
Yeah.
That's what she eats. I don't eat sweets. I'm not
But
a sweet.
I'm a Pepsi drinker too, and
Well, I only drink sodas
now
when
he's
I'm around her.
but he's been around me for 24 years, you guys. 24 years.
Lately. So she doesn't drink much sodas now.
Yeah, lately. Yeah.
Lately.
Now that I'm not drinking as much sodas, when I go look for them, when I want them, he had a Pepsi craze, so he drank them. I drink them. But I'm saying that to say that it's important to make sure that he's eating properly. Even he have to help me with salt because I love salt.
She loves salt.
And so I
But
have
I've
to
never
make
been a
sure I
salt
don't cook.
freak. She's a salt freak.
Yeah, I'm a salt freak, so I don't want to hurt him with the way I cook, which
Right.
I can sometimes. So you have to take all that into consideration. So we're gonna ask him some questions that Woody had got. I think we
Well, I
answered.
can't pull them up. Yeah, I answered them. I will be going on and checking them out and doing things.
And we're gonna do better with answering some questions because this is a serious matter. And he's a testimony. He's still living. He's still holding on strong.
Yeah, so now my refraction rate, it was 15 then. I'm 55 now. My refraction rate is at 55. So I'm normal. The doctor says my heart is fine. And that's a miracle within itself because most people that go through what I went through to the extreme of the condition, some are not with us right now. And some are on transplant lists. I have a cousin that was on a transplant list. Yeah, it's serious. It can be real serious and everything. And we just lost a friend also with the same problems I had during the same time that I had it, as a matter of fact. And they wanted to put her on a transplant list. But I thank God that my doctors found an alternative way.
And here, Walk by Faith says she was diagnosed in January 2020 with CHF. And so we just want to say, Faith, Walk by Faith, we pray that God is with you, that he's keeping you, and that you have found the right doctor to keep you strong, and that you get you somebody to talk to, somebody to, just keep an eye on you. And if you need Woody send us a message or make a comment. You can always just post, and he will try to do better. We will do better. We committed to doing better with responding with you guys, because we realize it's very important, and so we will not leave you out there hanging, because he didn't have anyone to talk to. Thank God for the doctors that he came across. Thank God for God, and we're just so thankful for that. So again, walk by faith. I'm glad that you've been diagnosed. Unfortunately you've been diagnosed, but I'm glad that they figure it out what's wrong with you, so you can get the help that you need.
Right. So make sure you take your meds the way you're supposed to. It's just a life change, that's all. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You can beat it. I've done it. Anybody can do it. I mean, don't give up. I mean, that's the key. Even when they're saying, oh, we don't think this, we don't think that. We had one doctor in there that, in the emergency room, that when we came in, he's like, oh no, you're definitely gonna have a transplant. I wasn't hearing it.
So,
sure enough,
I don't have my glasses on.
other doctors came in and things worked out.
What's Harge glasses? What's that?
Deandra
Harge. You say you haven't heard anything from Woody. You pray everything is well, because he did a video on his wow. And so, you can see that we're still here. We're still kicking. He's still here. He's still kicking. Thanks for being concerned.
And your husband was diagnosed. So, so I understand. I understand.
Let us know how your husband's doing. We pray that he's found the right medication, the right doctors too.
All right. With that being said, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
New York, Chi-Town, Sydney, Spain. London, Tokyo, Paris, LA. New York, Chi-Town, Sydney, Spain. London, Tokyo, Paris, LA. New York, Chi-Town, Sydney, Spain.